What's up and welcome in Sportstopia Fantasy Fire and Ice NBA edition. It's your boy Corey Parson, the fantasy executive, Noah Rubin, Steven Alexander, Dr. A. Sportstopia.io is the website where you can find all the information that we'll be giving you today. Doc, Noah, the whole crew do a great job over there. So come rock with us, come get down with us. Glad to have you joining us today. Going to go through some tiers, talk some rankings. Many of you could be getting ready for your fantasy basketball drafts this coming weekend. We want to make sure that you are in the right spot to do that. Noah Rubin's my first time working with you in this setting, sir. How are you doing?
And I'm doing well. Excited to be here. Should be some fun stuff going through forwards, centers. Anything else to say. I'm just excited to be here.
All right, Doc, what's up with you? You've done this plenty of times, me and you together. I had to clean my off my screen, off my camera. Thank you, Doc.
I'm doing well. I'm posting my forward tiers on Twitter right now. So if you want to follow along, the links are easy to find.
Thanks, Doc. Because I got the small forwards pulled up on sportstopia.io, and I figured we'd go from there, right? And then I see it's like a single player in like the first four tiers. Is that correct?
If that's what you see, that's what's there. I'm not looking at them myself yet, but yes, I have a feeling that is probably how I did the small forwards.
Because tier 1 is Tatum, tier 2 is Kevin Durant, tier 3 is LeBron James, tier 4 is Kawhi Leonard. Then you get a nice robust tier 5. But these first four tiers, Doc, these are kind of some of the statesmen of the game, the elders, besides Jason Tatum.
What it tells me is small forward is really thin.
Okay.
Because it goes from Tatum to a bunch of guys that a lot of people don't want to draft. A lot of people are scared of Kevin Durant this year. A lot of people are scared of LeBron missing a ton of games. A lot of people are scared of Kawhi missing a ton of games. Then you get down into tier 5, OG Anunoby, Franz Wagner, Cameron Johnson, and Chris Middleton are all good players, but really the only exciting guy in that tier to me is Cameron Johnson with all the upside. Franz has a lot of upside. OG is slow and steady. And Chris Middleton, a lot of people are scared of him coming off the knee injury. So there's not a lot of great depth at small forward. It's probably the scarcest fantasy position right now.
Interesting stuff right there. Noah, what do you think about this small forward and the lack of depth in some of these senior citizens at the top of the rankings? You know what I'm saying? Kind of curious of your thoughts on the state of the small forward position in the NBA.
Yeah, it's very top heavy. And honestly, the only safe option, like you said, is Jason Tatum. Kevin Durant, you still have to spend a pretty premium pick to get him, generally late first round, early second. But he's a guy that I'm, like you said, very concerned about. I think he played 47 games last season, has had a number of injuries since tearing his Achilles in the finals, 4 years ago? So I think getting Kawhi Leonard or LeBron in round 3 or 4 is probably a better price for me than spending a first or second round pick on Kevin Durant. So I'll probably get them more. But even then, they're in that same group of guys that you understand that the maximum amount of games you're going to get is probably 55 or 60. When they're on the court, they're great, but there's no guarantees there.
So let me ask you this, Doc. Is there any way that you can kind of take this depth, right, and make it a strength depending on your format? Is it easier to work around this in a points format? Is it easier to work around it in a category format as far as what we have at the small forward position?
Well, I think it's not that that big of a deal because everybody's dealing with the same issue. What it does do is if you have Jason Tatum, you have a leg up on everybody else. You've got a better small forward than anybody else is going to have, even if they have two of them. And then what you really have to do, I think, is kind of pick at the bottom of the tier and try to find that sleeper that's going to blow up. And, Jeremy Sohan in tier 6, a lot of people are talking about him running the point instead of Trey Jones in San Antonio. Trey Murphy, when he comes back from his surgically repaired leg, eventually is going to be somebody that a lot of people think has breakout potential. Michael Porter Jr. is a guy that for years the talent is there. Can he ever put it all together. So yeah, trying to find that diamond in the rough is going to be helpful as well. Like Jarace Walker for the Pacers could have a big year. He could also do nothing, but the key is if you get Tatum, I mean it's an argument for taking Tatum third instead of sixth because point guards are everywhere, and the hot point guards are going 3, 4, 5. Luka, Ty Halliburton, SGA, but this position scarcity almost leads me to believe that maybe it should be Tatum that's going at 3 or 2 instead of those guys.
You may have clicked on something right there. Noah, kind of like you would look at it like if like drafting Travis Kelce in the fantasy football draft. You know what I'm saying? Where, okay, well, it may not be the best statistical option right here, but it's for premium as far as roster construction and filling that spot. That could be a good idea. But Doc did mention some dudes down the board. A couple of the names, one of the names he mentioned was Jarace Walker. Kind of curious of your thoughts on some of these forwards in this position down here, like that could be potential breakout guys this year.
Yeah, I think Walker's a guy that may end up playing more minutes at power forward, but either way, I think he'll be coming off the bench as a rookie for Indiana. Probably going to be behind Obi Toppin, so may not do a ton this season. We'll probably have a few games here and there. One name that I didn't see on Doc's list that I actually really like that has done really well during the preseason is Bilal Coulibaly. For Washington, their number 7 pick. He has, I believe, through 3 games, 10 steals already. Looks like he's going to start for the Wizards. So he may only be good in one category, but he's a rookie. Should have some good offensive games, should have some bad offensive games, but it seems like the steals will be there pretty consistently. He's a guy that I would love to take a swing on in the later rounds. But you mentioned the positional scarcity. There isn't a ton of small forwards, but I feel like there's a lot of guys that are either shooting guards or power forwards that also have eligibility at small forward.
No doubt.
So
yeah, these are primary
there. Right. I think
positions.
I'll probably tend to end up getting more shooting guards and power forwards that are also eligible at small forward just based on, I mean, how scarce this list gets when you get into tier 7. I mean, Joe Ingles is at the top of the tier. So I think it's kind of a guy it's like not super exciting, especially in standard leagues.
Doc, let me ask you about Denny Advija and Keldon Johnson. I know Keldon Johnson is a player that kind of felt like he was coming on for a few seasons now, and then it kind of feels like it's hit kind of like he's reached his ceiling. Would you go that far?
Well, yes, and he's just not he's not that fantasy friendly of a player. He scores points and really doesn't do anything else. Now you had Wembanyama, you had a bunch of other guys to the mix. It sounds like he might be coming off the bench even. He's like a less famous version of RJ Barrett.
Yeah. Yeah. How about the famous version of RJ Barrett, Noah?
He's I'll actually probably end up with more Keldon Johnson than RJ Barrett just because I feel like RJ Barrett kills your field goal percentage, your free throw percentage. He'll give you points. Both of those guys are much better in points leagues, but they're guys that I'm probably not taking in category leagues because somebody else will probably take them before I would even consider them because they're probably more of a second to last round guy, and they tend to go a couple of rounds earlier than that, but they'll give you points, and that's about it.
Yeah, and you had asked about Denny Avdija too, and he's a guy that we've been waiting for a couple of years to kind of break out and do something. And he shows flashes, but he never puts it all together. He's gonna be over there screaming for the ball as Jordan Poole shoots 50 times a game now. So he's gonna get even.
I already saw that.
Yeah. It's not your team, bro.
He's gonna get even fewer touches probably now. So my hope for Denny Avdija has sort of that ship has sort of sailed out of my port, but maybe Noah has a better feel for Denny Avdija than I do.
I wouldn't count on that. I'm pretty out on him. Was out on him even before this summer when they added kind of depth on the wing, and it doesn't seem like he's going to start for a tanking team. I just don't really see the upside there.
Yeah. I used to work for Sports Illustrated, and like when he was going through his process of coming to the NBA, and they act like he was gonna be Michael Jordan. You know what I'm saying? They was like, like they was really selling this kid to me. You know what I mean? And then he got to the NBA, and I'm like, Interesting. All right, Giannis Antetokounmpo is the number one power forward. Obviously, Jaren Jackson Jr., Triple J, power forward number 2. Tier 3, Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Davis, and Lauri Markkanen, Doc. Doc, I want Lauri Markkanen out of that bunch. Is that correct?
Yes. And even Lauri Markkanen only played like 65 games last year, I think. So, again, it's more of the same in this load management era. A lot of people are not going to want to touch Anthony Davis. A lot of people are touching Anthony Davis, though, and the people, Rick Kamla that I do a podcast with over at RotoWire, he's all in on Anthony Davis and Zion Williamson this season, and I'm still not. I've been burned by both of those guys enough times.
It hurts. It hurts.
That you take Anthony Davis at number 4, and then he sits out, half the year, and you're toast.
Nice outfit though.
Giannis is tricky because in a points league, Giannis could go number 1, but in a league that dings you for free throws, you automatically lose free throws if you take Giannis. There's no getting around it because he's a high volume shooter. He's not good at it. He's also got that. It seems like there's always something going on with his knee. I don't know if it's just me or if everybody feels that, but I'm always nervous about Giannis's knee. For me, the power forward I want out of this whole list on my team is Jaren Jackson Jr. I just don't know what can slow him down this year. No Ja for 25 games. He's blocked shots. He hits threes. He's a good free throw shooter. He steals the ball. He's going to get points. He's going to get rebounds. I just love Jaren Jackson Jr. this year.
Triple J getting it done. Got to get in on Triple J. And when you look at the top of the power forwards, Noah, what it looks like to you?
Definitely Giannis first. Steve mentioned you're going to probably lose free throws unless you make a very concerted effort to not just get only 90% free throw shooters. But I think it's just easier to go in on a free throw punt with Giannis, sacrifice that category and probably threes, turnovers as well, and just focus on the other 6. And in that case, getting him at 8 ends up being a really good pick, 7 or 8, maybe even a little bit later. Anthony Davis, I think, is a guy you guys are turning into an Anthony Davis truther. I got him in that mock draft as well just because it felt like he was going just a little bit later. Not even a huge Anthony Davis guy, but top 5 talent when he's on the court. If you can get 55 or 60 games from him and get him in the second round, I'm very happy with that. I'm not going to spend a first-round pick on him because of the injury history, and I feel like that kind of docks him and makes him a second-round guy. But I think kind of middle or a little bit earlier in the second round, I have no problem taking him just because when he's on the court, he's that good.
Yeah, definitely elite, you know what I'm saying, when he's out there. I just worry about stuff like that, you know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Doc, got a nice, healthy tier 4, Doc, with your boy Victor Wembanyama sitting up there at the top. And then you got Pascal Siakam, my favorite player, Kristaps Porzingis. Ooh, look at Kyle Kuzma in the mix. Kyle Kuzma, listen, everybody's talking about the pool party, Doc, but Kyle Kuzma can light it up too, you know what I'm saying? He don't mind getting some elbow action as well.
He's been pretty good the last couple of years. Kind of underrated, kind of under the radar playing for Washington.
He was their best player last year, Doc.
Yeah. I feel like every time we talk about the Wizards, like that's your team, isn't it? You get fired up.
No, I don't. I just watch a lot of them because of randomness. And I see, like, I watch them play. And I'm like, wait a minute. Because I expect Bradley Beal to be the guy down the stretch. And I'm like, why is Kyle Kuzma doing all the work?
Yeah, I mean, he's been good since he came over there from the Lakers. And I think he should be solid again this season. Really, there's a lot of interesting things going on in Tier 4. You've got Wembanyama, who I've taken him in 2 drafts. I had to take him in the second round in both of them. I don't think he was going to be there in the third round by the time he got back to me. I'm a Wemby believer. I think he's going to go off. I think he's going to win Rookie of the Year. I think he might lead the league in block shots. In fact, Noah and I are going to be talking about that this afternoon. We got a little wager about who's going to lead the league in block shots. I've got Wemby. You've got Triple J? No,
I think it was Walker Kessler.
Walker Kessler. Probably a better guess than Wemby. But anyway, I think Wemby's going to do it all. Pascal Siakam, rock solid. Seems to play play a lot of games. Kristaps Porzingis, you can never trust him all the way, but I love him in Boston. I think he's not going to have to be the one or two guy, and I think that's good for him mentally. And him and Drew Holiday are going to make Boston a really, really good team. I think they're going to probably win it all this year. That's why I think it's good, smart money to throw a hundo at Jason Tatum for MVP. If the Celtics win it all, or if the Celtics are as good as I think they're going to be, Tatum's going to be a good bet for MVP. And then you also have Zion Williamson in this tier, and you're either in or out on Zion. And a lot of people are going in. A lot of people are going to be sadly burned, I think, because I don't trust Zion Williamson any further than I could throw him, and I could probably throw him maybe 1 inch.
No, it'd be tough to get him off the ground, Doc.
Yeah, it would. And then Miles Bridges is in this, but we wrote this. This column's been up for a while. Miles Bridges got arrested again the other day. I don't know.
He won't be in the NBA this year.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with him, but I've cooled off my Miles Bridges Jets. Yeah. I'm not drafting Miles Bridges.
Probably good to come off of that, Doc. Noah, where are you at, Noah?
With the power forwards?
No. I mean, I'm looking at your background. Yeah. Physically.
Oh, okay. I was making sure I'm at my parents' house in Georgia right now.
Oh, you're in Georgia. All right. Not too far. Hey, look, we're all three of us down here. Very nice.
I actually live in South Carolina in Columbia. So
how about that? Not too far.
Noticed the Yeah.
All right. So cool. Look, that's a beautiful day outside today.
Hey, Noah is spending the day with Dr. A today. We're gonna go to my hangout, Johnny B's, which is where I spend all my time. It's a little restaurant in my little town I live in, and we're gonna do some live podcasts from Dahlonega, Georgia today on Noah's podcast. So that's what we got going on at noon.
All right, cool. I'm looking forward to that. I'm gonna have to check that out. You know what I'm saying? But it's before we get into the power forwards, what do you think of Doc's thoughts on the Boston Celtics? I'm not really. I don't like to hear that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't like to hear that, Noah, because I don't really have a big rooting interest. I don't like the Boston Celtics, though. I know that much. So, can they be like the number one seed and not win the championship, or you think this is like a championship contender like Doc do? You think they can win? Can they win 60 games?
Yes, they have the best, probably top 6 players. If you look at take the top 6 from every team, they have by far the best 6. It's how much are they going to get out of the rest of their team? How's it going to fit together? But they have 6 very good starters at least, and obviously a few all-star, even superstar level players. So I would be pretty surprised if they weren't a top 2 seed in the East and made it back to the conference finals at minimum. Would not be surprised at all if they were in the finals and won the championship.
What about Zion? You know Zion this year? You're that's a part of your thing, Noah?
Never. Not a Zion guy. When he's on the court, he's great.
Why not? You've been burnt, and or it's like a romantic thing where you've been burnt too many times, but you're like, you know what, I'm out on this guy. Or is it, no, I saw this coming. You know what I'm saying? Like Mike Francesa, I saw this coming, and I'm like, I was right about him.
No, I mean, I hope that he's able to be healthy. I'm never gonna bet on it. I'm never gonna stake my fantasy team on that. And plus, I have a friend that's very annoying about Zion. Says that he's gonna be great. He's gonna play 70 games this year and is going to average 25, 7 and 5. I don't believe that. And so I automatically have a little bit of a negative mindset towards Zion. So 5th or 6th round, combining him with Zion and punting free throws, I'm cool taking Zion, but I'm not probably going to get him in many leagues.
Hey, Doc, I see you got our guy Draymond Green down here a little bit. Your boy, Jonas's boy, Jabari Smith in this tier as well. Keegan Murray, who we talked about. Oh, your man Ben Simmons in this tier as well. What is this is tier 5. What is your favorite target in this tier? What do you think a difference maker is in this tier right here? Jalen Duren in here as well.
I think it's Keegan Murray and maybe Jabari Smith. I think Danny Gafford's going to be good. Sleeper to get blocks and rebounds. I'm not touching Draymond Green for any price at any stage of any draft. I want nothing to do.
All right. That's how you really feel.
I want nothing to do with Tobias Harris. And Ben Simmons is a guy that is available in like round 10, round 11. That's kind of the sweet spot for Ben Simmons. Everybody's talking about how good he looks and how he's driving to the rack, a steal and a dunk, and looks like a different player. I mean, I need to see it to believe it. Even if everything goes perfectly with Ben this season, he's still not going to be able to make a free throw or a 3-pointer. His field goal percentage is still shaky, but yeah, he'll rack up counting stats, some points, rebounds, assists. But I took him with the last pick in a mock draft we did at ESPN the other day. So I'm more entertained. I do it to entertain myself, I think. Just taking Ben Simmons late makes me laugh, and I like to laugh.
A nice little chuckle from Doc. Noah, are you in the laughing mood when you're on the draft board?
Always trying to have fun with it. There's actually, looking at the tiers with Ben Simmons, he's a guy that I think a lot of people are kind of back in on. He looks good during the preseason. Seems like he's going to start at point guard, but he's going to have forward eligibility, so that can help you get solid assists from the forward spot. So that's really nice. I've seen him slowly going up earlier in drafts. Did a mock the other day. I think this was somebody buying a little bit too much into the hype, but he went at 72. And I think that's probably a tad early, but a little after I pick 100, I think is totally fine. But this is a really good tier. There's a lot of guys I like in this one. Daniel Gafford, Jeremy Grant, Jalen Duren, PJ Washington should start in Charlotte now with Miles Bridges probably not playing basketball. So this is actually a very solid tier with guys you can get around pick 100 or maybe even a tad earlier than that, but that should give you really good value.
You think the Hornets can win 35 games?
I'm kind of optimistic about what Charlotte can do. I think they're going to go back to the play-in or have a chance to go back to the play-in and lose, but I think that they'll be significantly better than they were last year because they'll be healthier and just have a little bit more talent.
Yeah, interesting. Doc, I'll shoot over the centers before we get up out of here. Obviously, two-tier position at the top with the two best players in basketball, maybe. You know what I'm saying? The last couple of MVPs, Nikola Jokic and my man Joel Embiid. Tier 3, I think, is fascinating, Doc, with Sabonis and Adebayo and Miles Turner. Who's your favorite target in there?
It's tough to say. I know Domantas Sabonis is going like 10 to 12 in almost every draft, and he doesn't block shots. He doesn't hit threes.
Interesting. Yeah.
He doesn't steal the ball. He's not really the prototypical big man that makes me nervous. So I'm probably taking Jaren Jackson Jr. when other people are taking Domantas Sabonis.
Got it.
But Bam Adebayo is boring to me, but he's rock solid. Like, you know what you're going to get every time he goes out on the floor. Sometimes that's 5 or 6 assists, which is kind of nice. And then Miles Turner's sort of a freak. He has all those block shots and all those 3-pointers, playing with a super fun Pacer team. Even though he's been rumored to be, out of Indiana for the last 3 years.
He's been on a trade block since he got there.
He's somehow still there. So, you'll hear his name in trade rumors, or you used to hear it in trade rumors all the time, but he's survived it. He's still there. And now he's part of what makes the Pacers one of the best up-and-coming teams. So I really actually like Tier 3. I don't know that I'll have those guys on any of my teams because I like the guys in Tier 4 better.
You build different. Okay, all right. But before we get to Tier 4, what do you think of that third tier, Noah?
It's probably a very fair third tier. I think the only guy I've actually drafted at all really is Domantas Sabonis, and that's when I go Giannis first round, Sabonis second round, and kind of punt threes and free throws.
Is that a strategy that you've employed a couple times? And what slot are you doing that from?
Probably
or what area?
Yeah. Okay, so when I start pick 8 and then get Sabonis on the flip at 15, and then that's probably the only time I draft Zion is when I go him in round 5 or 6 because he fits well with that. But a lot of the centers that I really like this year, like Doc mentioned, are in later rounds. I think you can get solid value from centers later in the draft. And obviously you go Jokic and Embiid 1 and 2, but a lot of these other guys, I'm more comfortable taking centers later in the draft.
I think it's fascinating what you just mentioned about the different builds and different roster constructions. Because a lot of times I think when you're playing fantasy, I think you get into picking players, but that's not really how you win consistently. These teams have to fit in a certain way with certain stat pieces being hit in certain games played and stuff like that. So curious, like, what's if you're building from 1, 2, 3, what's it look like then?
I think with Jokic, it gives you a lot of flexibility because he's pretty strong from every category. It doesn't really hurt you anywhere. So usually, I guess, probably decide round 2 or 3, okay, these are the categories I'm weak in based on best available. With Embiid, when I've done that at 2, punting assists and just kind of getting some point guards or guys that are point guard eligible that aren't going to get you a ton of assists, such as like a Dennis Schroeder later round, Bruce Brown later round, and focusing on other categories. I haven't really drafted from 3 much, but with Luka punting free throws and turnovers and just accepting that you're, probably going to lose those categories by also drafting players that are stronger in other categories, just kind of focusing on other ones. I haven't actually been able to draft often from picks like 4 to 7, but it's been 2, 8, and 11 very often. So 8 punting free throws and starting with Giannis, 11 starting with a LaMelo or a Dame, and then getting Trae Young on the other side, punting field goal percentage and turnovers. It ends up getting to be a lot of fun team building. I think it's very different from fantasy football or just points leagues in general, where you're just trying to draft players that score points. And now it's, okay, if I can make this team fit together with players that other teams might not like as much, but it works for me with my team build. So it ends up being, way more complex trying to fill out this team.
Interesting. Curious your thoughts on that, Doc.
When I worked in the corporate world in Indiana 25 years ago or whatever, we did a lot of team building. And whenever I hear that phrase, I have these nightmares.
Came up.
These nightmares about passing around a jar of Play-Doh or something stupid, where everybody has to tell a story about themselves and
manage the manager.
This is a much better way to team build, I think, is to do it in fantasy basketball. But
definitely,
I'm fired up about tier 4.
I want to get into that, Doc. What's up with that?
Tier 4 is Alperen Şengün, Evan Mobley, Nikola Vucevic, Walker Kessler, and Nick Claxton.
Nick Claxton guy right here, knowing me.
You're a big Claxton guy. Noah's a big Walker Kessler guy. I'm a big Alperen Şengün guy. Like, I'm happy with getting any of those 3. Really, anybody in this tier, I'm cool with. And I'm probably going to take Vucevic last out of this group just because he's the oldest. But it's a great tier. And that's the reason I don't have those guys in tier 3 on my teams, because I can wait and get Alperen Şengün and Walker Kessler later. And even a guy we'll talk about later, Zach Collins, is a guy that I target late in my drafts, and I have not got him in one. Somebody gets him before I pull the trigger every time, and it makes me really mad.
Good stuff. What do you think of that tier, Noah?
I like it a lot. I think Claxton and Kessler are 2 of my favorites to draft, especially bringing back up without using the word team building, kind of the builds for teams that punting free throws, because both those guys are going to have incredibly low free throw percentages, but are able to provide really good value with field goal percentage, blocks, rebounds. So they fit well, starting with Giannis and Sabonis there. So I like those guys. And then getting Evan Mobley in that range as well. I think I like him more in Dynasty than this year, but he should still be really good. I'm just kind of waiting for them to trade Jared Allen so he can play center.
All right, cool. Doc, what did you do in corporate America? We've taken a turn now.
I worked for a timeshare exchange company for a while.
Oh, wow.
RCI, where people would trade. They own a week in Helen, Georgia, at a resort, and they can trade it to go to like Hawaii for a week. Yeah, theoretically. And I used to facilitate some of that stuff. A lot of my friends still work for that company, and then I moved on to a mutual fund company where I was like a customer service manager for a while.
Timeshare always sounds like a good idea when you're when you're there.
Oh yeah, well,
but after the divorce happens, no, let me stop.
Yeah, timeshare presentations are right there with used car salesmen and all that. So yeah, you got to be careful on those timeshare presentations, man. Is it worth the $250 in poker chips you get? I don't know. I don't know.
Tough to get out of those things. You mentioned tiers 5 and 6. I see, Doc, you got your boy Chet Holmgren down here along with Jared Allen. And then in 6, you got Jakob Patel and Yeka Okongwu, Robert Williams, some interesting names in that one. When you look at 5 and 6, what sticks out? This is the centers we're talking about.
Well, first of all, I feel like Chet probably has moved himself into tier 4 at this point.
Okay, he's doing his thing.
And maybe Jared Allen and maybe DeAndre Ayton. I mean, you can kind of – there's not a huge difference between tier 4 and tier 5, I don't think. I love Chet. Oh, I decided that my life goal for 2023 is to draft a fantasy basketball team where I get the 4th or 5th pick. So I go SGA 1, I go Wemby in the 2nd, I get Chet in the 3rd, and then I get Jalen Williams, and who's the other one? Who's the other OKC player?
Josh Giddey.
Yeah, and then I get Josh Giddey and then Jalen Williams with the next 2 picks. Like I want all 4 of my OKC guys and Wemby in the first 5 rounds. And I think it's doable. I almost did it in the ESPN league yesterday. I got all of them except SGA because I had the 6th pick, and he was gone right before I picked. But that's my new thing. I want Chet and Wemby on as many teams as I can get them on together. I know it's risky. I know they're skinny little bean poles, but I love Chet and Wemby. I love the idea of them so much. So DeAndre Ayton, a lot of people think he's going to have a bounce back season in Portland. I kind of think he might have a little chip on his shoulder, might have something to prove, could be good. Brook Lopez, keep waiting for him to go away. It never happens. Yeah, I'm not really high on Brook Lopez or Rudy Gobert. You mentioned tier 6. Jakob Poeltl is always kind of slow and steady and kind of fun. Mark Williams, he's on everybody's breakout list. I think they're in Charlotte. And there's my guy, Okongwu. If you don't get Zach Collins late, I think Okongwu is a good sleeper pick. Can Robert Williams play in more than 40 games? I don't know if he can or not. But and there's Zach Collins.
Basically, same thoughts on those same groupings right there. Anybody that Doc missed or you want to reinforce?
No, not anybody that he missed. I think Chet's definitely a tier up. And then the 5 centers that I really like getting late in draft, 2 of them were on the power forwards list because of eligibility, but Daniel Gafford, Jalen Duren, Onyeka Okongwu, Zach Collins, and Mark Williams are the 5 guys that I really like targeting in that probably round 7 to round 9 range that are going to be, I think, really good centers all this season.
All right, cool. Good stuff right there. All right, Doc, coming down to the bottom of the center tiers, it's Clint Capella, JV, Mitchell Robinson, everybody got, a little bit with them. And then in tier 8, you got Zubac, my man Steven Adams. And then it's Bobo, James Wiseman, Mason Plumlee hanging in. Bol and Wiseman, upside type. Who I guess I asked you the question, who's going to get cut first?
I'm not really sure, but I'm pulling up Detroit right here. I'm kind of intrigued by this Wiseman thing. In Detroit, nobody's talking about it, and they've got too many centers there. Everybody's talking about Jalen Duren. They've got Jalen Duren. They've got Beef Stew, Isaiah Stewart. They've got Marvin Bagley, who's revitalized his career in Detroit. But they also have James Wiseman, who's the former number 2 pick overall
of
the Warriors.
He's got the draft capital.
So there's all these guys are going to kind of cancel each other out, right? Isaiah Stewart, Duren, and Wiseman are all going to probably split minutes. It's going to hurt all of them in fantasy. I don't think you really want to, hang your fantasy hat on center in Detroit. But I would just like them to to give James Wiseman a chance this year and see what he can do. I don't know if it'll happen, but I'm very intrigued by that. But yeah, this tier, the end of the center run is pretty dicey. I love Bol. My son and I both want to see more Bol.
Yeah.
I think the NBA needs more Bol in its life.
Yeah, but I hope we want to see it, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Noah, how would you close out this center? These are center tiers.
You asked which one's going to get cut first. I think, unfortunately for you guys, it's probably going to be Bol. If anybody from this list gets cut, I think this is kind of the unfun centers. You had your top tier centers, and then your unfun, really good centers, and then your fun, not as good centers, and now it's your not as fun, not as good centers. But Capella, Mitch Robinson, JV are very serviceable. You know exactly what you're going to get from them, but who knows how many minutes. And then in the last year, probably the only guy that I'd actually have on a roster is Steven Adams if I really needed help with rebounds, but none of those guys are all that exciting to me. You mentioned Detroit. I think Jalen Duren's going to be the starter, and I think the beat reporters were saying that it's going to be Isaiah Stewart at power forward, which I don't know why teams keep trying to force two big starting lineups, but Detroit's going to try it anyway, which means Bagley and Wiseman will probably be off the bench. But if you look at Duren last year as a rookie, he averaged almost 9 points, 9 boards, almost a steal, and almost a block in 24 minutes per game. I think if he can get to 28 or 30, with even if Wiseman plays 18 off the bench, that's enough for Jalen Duren to average a double-double and 2 defensive stats with a sky-high field goal percentage as well. So that's the fantasy appeal for him for me.
Yeah, I'm a fan
Wiseman,
of his.
Yeah, Wiseman has – you think that he has talent, and I imagine that he does, but
you never see it. You hear about it, but you don't see it.
Right.
Bigfoot.
So I hope that – I mean, Detroit took a chance on him last year, might as well, but it doesn't seem like a great situation. Maybe they trade him again. I don't know what they'd be able to get back for him. So it seems like he's just going to be stuck behind Duren this year. Yeah, maybe in a few years he'll find a better spot. But right now, like Doc mentioned, there's so many centers in Detroit. It seems like Duren's probably going to be the only one that's fantasy relevant this season. But who knows? Things change so quickly.
All right. Well, hope you all enjoyed that good information. You get ready for your fantasy basketball drafts this weekend. You can find these tiers. Sportstopia.io is the website. You see the Twitter handles for both gentlemen there as well. And Doc, you said you got some links on Twitter to make it easier to find as you go into your draft weekends, correct?
They are all there.
All right, there you go.
Just don't draft Miles Bridges.
There you go. Then leave Miles Bridges out unless. Let me stop. Unless it's the longest yard league. No, let me just, let's end the show. For Noah and Doc's Corey Parson, the fantasy executive, we out.